Well, the governor had put together this 70% goal, and if you kind of look at the data, California naturally is going to get to 66%. College Futures presented a challenge of trying to get all groups up to 70%, and in doing so, I mean, this is a large social experiment and fairly significant investment to get there, is trying to bring 70% of each group up to, 70% of each group up to that level of attainment. In doing so, you're able to grow the California economy by about $4.4 trillion. When you give somebody education, that transmits to their kids, and so you really begin to create a virtuous cycle of educational mobility. And so it's statistic, if your parents only have a high school degree, you have about a 27% chance of getting a BA. If your parents have a professional degree, you have an 83% chance. And so we need to recognize that just because someone doesn't have a degree doesn't mean they're not capable of doing it. And there's so many constraints along the way. And so one thing this report does is challenges our priors that it can't happen. It's going to be a challenge, but I really believe it's possible. So we have to think about what the report is presenting. So I used an analogy earlier about unpeeling an onion. So we've got a series of takeaways from the report of a very high level, our 4.4 trillion. But as we dive into that data, it unpacks to individual earnings, to taxes, to savings on health and incarceration. But it also in the report is we dive down into regions. So starting to look at regional differences in their economies and how that's going to drive the results. And the mainstay of the report is also looking at differences in attainment by group. And so we start to think about groups that have low attainment. The stretch for them to 70% is really going to be one of the primary drivers is the economic gains. I think well over 50% of the gains come from uplift low income populations. A very large portion comes from moving Hispanics who have some of the lowest attainment in the state towards 70%. And so we're picking up those gains because we're reaching and helping people who could use and benefit by the education more than others, because there's a lot of labor market constraints that education can help break through.